oyente, no se deje engañar por radioemisoras que, aunque tienen buena programación, también tienen restricciones que afectarán su publicidad. Las emisoras con licencias educacionales no podrán promocionar sus ofertas, precios especiales en su producto ni el costo de sus servicios. La Mágica 1220 es una emisora sin restricciones, con una licencia comercial que te dará más por tu dinero, llevando al público tu publicidad sin restricciones, dando énfasis en tus ofertas, precios y servicios. Llama a nuestro departamentos de venta hoy al 407-729-6155, 407-729-6155 y comienza a promover tu negocio con la emisora que siempre está en el corazón del pueblo.
El siguiente programa pagado no representa la opinión de J&V Communications Inc., de sus directores o empleados.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and greetings for all of our radio listeners. This is your weekly radio talk show, Islam for Mankind and all of Allah's creation. Your weekly radio talk show. Remember that if you want to participate, you want to join us, please call us at 407-343-6001, 407-343-6001. We have today with us, we have Imam Abdul Hamid, and we have Brother Yusuf of Tarantino, and that they're visiting us on a weekly basis, and we are getting very used to have them here. We're really enjoying that. Assalamu alaikum, Imam and Brother Yusuf.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure to be here, brother.
Always.
So peace and blessings upon you all. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the truth and help us to follow the message of those rightly guided, the ones who have come before us. Ameen.
Ameen.
So once again, it's a pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you guys here. Para el beneficio de la audiencia de habla hispana, este es su programa semanal Islam para la humanidad y toda la creación de Allah, ese único Dios y Padre Todopoderoso, creador del cielo, de la tierra y de todo lo que se encuentra entre medio de ellos y de todo el universo y de estos cuerpecitos que tenemos nosotros y de nuestras almas que han sido precisamente creadas a la perfección por ese Padre amado. Tenemos el placer de tener con nosotros a Imam Abdul Hamid y tenemos al hermano Yusuf. Dije algo incorrecto. Did I say your name incorrect again? Write it down, please. I'm sorry. Y entonces el Abdul Azeem. Ok, perdón. Déjame correr. Para fines de récord es Imam Abdul Azeem. Y entonces lo hemos tenido ya por 3 semanas consecutivas y estamos pues tomando ventaja de su conocimiento que nos nutre de su sabiduría. Y tenemos también con nosotros al hermano Yusuf Tarantino. Yusuf, recuerden que son nombres en el Islam, son nombres árabes. Ese es el nombre original del profeta José y él utiliza el nombre se le conocía en las escrituras en idiomas idiomas arameos y hebreo. Era el nombre de ese profeta, era Yusuf, no era José. Era como Moisés, era Musa, como Jesús, era Isa, como Mahoma, pues era Mohammed. Dear Imam, please, what is the topic that you're going to give us as a gift on this week, please?
Today, inshallah, I would like to speak about the need of mankind for the messengers and their messages. The need of mankind for their messengers and their messages. So this is just a continuation of from where we left off last week.
Nos dice Imam que vamos a estar Abdul Azeem, que vamos a tener esta semana el tópico que vamos a estar discutiendo va a ser la necesidad de la humanidad por tener los mensajeros y sus mensajes que son enviados por ese Padre amado, por Dios Padre Todopoderoso. Go ahead, Imam, please. Jazakallahu khairan.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the last week we spoke about the definition of prophets and messengers and so on. Today we want to talk about how important they are in our lives. And as we mentioned, messengers and prophets have been sent to mankind regardless of your age, gender, cultural background, ethnicity. They have been sent to guide us and we all need them. So if people in the past used to argue with the messengers, they used to argue with messengers, they used to reject their teachings and turn away from them. Mankind today, in the 20th century that we live in, when they have reached such a pinnacle of material achievement, we have, penetrated the depths of the oceans, we've gone far into space, we've split the atom, we've discovered many natural forces which exist in the universe, and even more. And even more. Now think of our position today compared to centuries ago. We're even in more rejecting the messengers and their teachings today. And the attitude that we have today is basically built on what we have achieved. Basically, mankind's attitude today towards messengers and prophets and their teachings is like that of, considered, and I'm quoting here, that of wild donkeys when they see a lion. They flee from it, paying heed to nothing else. This basically is just an analogy to show that we're afraid of mentioning anything religious today. We're afraid of mentioning a prophet and his teachings. And when we hear it, people turn away from it with disgust. And the reason is because they're afraid, because there are going to be some rules that's mentioned by these prophets and these messengers, rules to guide us, rules that are going to benefit us, and this is the reason for it.
Para beneficio de la audiencia de habla hispana, el Imam nos está hablando del tema de la necesidad de la humanidad por sus mensajeros y sus mensajes. Si las personas en el pasado acostumbraban a argumentar alrededor o acerca del tópico de los mensajeros, estos también rechazaban sus enseñanzas y le daban la espalda. La humanidad hoy día, en el siglo XX, vemos que cuando hemos ya llegado al pináculo del avance, del adelanto material, hemos penetrado las profundidades de los océanos que nos rodean, hemos ido al espacio sideral, hemos dividido en fragmentos, en fracciones, lo que se conoce como el átomo, y hemos descubierto una serie de fuerzas naturales que existen en este universo, aún más en conflicto con los mensajeros. Más enfáticamente rechazamos sus enseñanzas y le damos la espalda de un modo más enfático, que es muy, muy triste. O sea, hemos avanzado en el conocimiento, sin embargo, no adelantamos en pasos hacia el conocimiento y hacia el acercamiento hacia ese Padre amado, hacia Dios Padre Todopoderoso. La humanidad tiene una actitud hoy día hacia los mensajeros y sus enseñanzas. Es como se hace un ejemplo, Imam muestra un ejemplo de cómo es que hacen los burros salvajes cuando ellos ven que un león se acerca. Ellos simplemente se alejan desesperadamente sin mirar a un lado o al otro ni prestar atención a nada más. Simple y sencillamente salirse del lugar porque quieren abandonar el área con desesperación. Asimismo, la raza humana hace con relación a los mensajeros y sus mensajes. Imam, jazakallahu khairan.
Yeah. Allah, and this example that we just gave, the example of us as human beings, we're like wild donkeys when we see a lion. When they see a lion, what do? They just flee to all different directions. They just want to run away from the lion. And we said this is an example of us in terms of messengers and prophets. And this is not just today, but it happened, centuries of years ago. Allah mentions in the Quran in Surah number 74, verse 49 to 51. فَمَا لَهُمْ عَنِ التَّذْكِرَةِ مُعْرِضِينَ كأنهم حمر مستنفرة فرت من قسورة. Allah mentions, then what is wrong with them? Then what is wrong with them? Meaning, what is wrong with human beings? That they turn away from receiving admonition. And as if they were frightened wild donkeys fleeing from a hunter or a lion or a beast of prey. So this ayah basically summarizes, a lot of mankind from centuries ago up to today.
Nos dice también igualmente Imam, dentro de su ilustración nos da discute el aspecto que en la revelación coránica también es discutido. Esto aparece al sura en el sagrado libro del Corán, del glorioso Corán, del sura 74 de las aleyas 49 al 51, y citamos del sagrado libro. Dice, ¿qué les pasa que se apartan de aquello que les hace recordar como si fueran asnos espantados que huyen de un león? Vemos entonces que cuando ocurre eso, es como cuando huye un león de un cazador o un león que le tiene miedo porque piensa que va a ser la presa en ese momento en particular. Vemos, hermanos, que esa no es la manera correcta de lidiar con este tipo de situación. También debemos decir que, hermano Rashid, we should also address our regards and blessings to brother, assalamu alaikum, to brother Rashid Abadi. It was impossible for him to be with us, but we know that he is tuning with us and salam alaikum, like we said before, and wishes that we will have him possibly next or the following week with us.
Yeah.
I think there is we have like a reload, like a something. The computer is doing some updates in here. We can be discussing the same matter. Go ahead.
Just to recap on the Muslim cemetery of Central Florida, for the Muslim brothers or the not yet Muslim brothers and sisters out there, there is a project for a Muslim cemetery by the Muslim Cemetery of Central Florida. The Muslim Cemetery -cfl.org is the website, and you can also find them on Facebook, Muslim Cemetery.cfl. The project manager is Brother Jamal Hosseini, and if you would like to contact them or if you would like to donate, you can do it on the website of Muslim Cemetery-cfl.org.
Hermano, hoy hablamos de un tema bien particular, bien interesante, que es el tema. O sea, hoy día tenemos que tener presente, o sea, no solamente nuestra presencia aquí en la tierra y nuestro servicio y nuestro propósito, el propósito para el cual Dios nos ha creado, sino también una vez que fallezcamos, pues también tener ya dispuesto esos arreglos en particular para la comunidad musulmana que estén interesados. Existe el concepto que pueden hacer sus donaciones al cementerio musulmán de la Florida Central, the Muslim Cemetery of Central Florida, y se pueden comunicar a través de www.muslim, M-U-S-L-I-M, cemetery, como cementerio en inglés, C-E-M-E-T-E-R-Y, .cfl.org, y entonces ahí van a poder hacer sus donaciones si así le interesan. Se pueden comunicar al 407-766-2424 o con el administrador, con el gerente del proyecto, que se llama el señor Jamal Hazuni. Okay,
Jamal. His name, Carl.
How do you pronounce it, Imam? Hazzouni, okay. Entonces, también si ustedes necesitan de alguna manera comunicarse con él, o se pueden hacer a través de nuestro teléfono, no el de la estación de radio, sino el nuestro 407-914-6723, 407-914-6723. That one in Spanish, this one's English.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khairan.
So
as we were mentioning before, the reason for this, why do human beings, we tend to deviate from the message and avoid the message, the divine message that has been sent to all of us? And one of the reasons is that it goes back to the topic we spoke about 2 weeks ago, and it's about arrogance and us thinking that we know too much. A lot of times, the comment is made, why will we follow a messenger that was sent centuries of years ago? We're so knowledgeable today, we're so much advanced, as though these prophets, they came up with their teachings from their back pockets. And in reality, it wasn't so. They received revelation from the Almighty, from the Creator, from our Creator. So Allah mentions a Quranic verse which basically explains this. It's in Surah Taghabun. Give me one, try to find Surah Taghabun. In Surah Taghabun, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions ذلك بأنه كانت تأتيهم رسلهم بالبينات فقالوا أبشر يهدوننا فكفروا وتولوا واستغنى الله والله غني حميد. The verse in Surah Taghabun, it translates as, and I'm still trying to find a verse so we can get the nice translation.
So he memorized that, mashallah.
He's got the Quran memorized.
Mashallah.
Mashallah.
But I
It's
don't
a
have
real
the
blessing.
pages memorized.
So that's one of the great miracles of this religion, is that we have memorizers of the entire book, mashallah.
Tawaba, that's a surah number 9.
Taghabun. No.
So
Okay, I can translate it.
Eso es una
okay.
de las cosas de los
Right.
beneficios del Sagrado Libro del Corán, de que nosotros, si el libro ha sido memorizado por tantas personas, que resulta ser un placer escuchar a los intérpretes, a las personas que se lo han memorizado, poderlo recitar.
Okay, got it.
Nos está diciendo Imam de que ¿por qué no te desviamos del mensaje divino? ¿Y es acaso por motivos de arrogancia y egoísmo? ¿O es acaso por la actitud que todos conocemos? Es que que tenemos este complejo de superioridad, porque hoy día tenemos tanto conocimiento y tanta información, y entonces nos decimos nosotros mismos ¿por qué seguimos a un profeta que vino hace 1400 años? Y cuando hoy día tenemos tantos datos, tanta información y tanta computadora. Okay, el hermano Yusuf encontró el sura y la ley que Imam quería citarles. Yusuf, Yusaku Wallahu Khairan.
وإياكم. Okay, so I'm honored to read this translation. What is translated means that it is because their messengers used to come to them with clear evidences, but they said, "Shall human beings guide us?" and disbelieved and turned away, and Allah dispensed with them, and Allah is free of need and praiseworthy.
So, again, this verse, it says, try to find. Okay, the verse is basically saying, ذلك, surah number, ذلك بأنه كانت تأتيهم رسل بالبينات. It is because it used to come to them, meaning who used to come to them? The prophets used to come to them and visit them with the signs, explaining these clear signs to them. بالبينات. Bayinat meaning signs that are very, very clear. It leaves no doubt in the hearts of those who see them and those who hear them. Meaning the messengers, they come with signs, clear signs. Among their signs are the verses that are sent down to them. ذلك بأنه كانت تأتيهم رسلهم بالبينات فقالوا, and then the people will say, أبشر يهدوننا? They will say, is it that a human being is guiding us? Is it that it's a human being like ourselves that is guiding us? فقالوا أبشر يهدوننا. So what do? فكفروا وتولوا. So instead they disbelieve. They decide to disbelieve in the prophets because they say he's a human being just like us. Right? أبشر يهدوننا فكفروا وتولوا. So they disbelieve in the prophets and the message وتولوا, and then they turn away from the remembrance. They turn away from the remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, when they turn away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what happens? وَاسْتَغْنَى اللَّهُ. And Allah Azza wa Jal, istaghna, He doesn't need them. Allah doesn't need us. He doesn't need anything. He's Al-Ahadu Samad. He's not in need of anything, and everything else needs Him. He's Al-Qayyum. فَكَفَرُوا وَتَوَلَّوا وَاسْتَغْنَى اللَّهُ. And what happens when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to step away and He says, okay, I do not need you. Wallahu ghaniyun hamid. And Allah is the all-rich. He's the one that is full of praise. He's worth praise. We should praise Him all the time. So this verse is telling us that Allah doesn't need us. He just sent this message for us to benefit from it. And when we follow it, when we follow this divine message, we benefit. We become better human beings. Civilization benefits. The rest of our brethren, our brothers and sisters in humanity, they also benefit. So this verse is, inshallah, Dr. Jesus is going to translate it for us.
Ok, nos habla el Imam de que se habla del Sura 64, el Sura del desengaño, y estamos hablando particularmente de si Dios tiene algún tipo de necesidad sobre nosotros. Y nos dice él que esto es un mensaje que Allah, que Dios Padre Todopoderoso nos está enviando a nosotros, y cita entonces, le citamos del Sagrado Libro del Corán, el Sura 64, que es el capítulo 6.4 a la aliyah número 6. Y citando del Sagrado Libro, eso es porque habiéndoles llegado sus mensajeros con las pruebas claras, dijeron, es que nos van a guiar simples humanos. Y entonces, y se negaron a creer y se desentendieron, y Allah prescindió de ellos. Allah es rico en sí mismo y alabado sea por siempre. Imam, Jazakallahu khairan. I was going to say
just real quick, I just
Imam
wanted to say Assalamu alaikum to our listeners out there. We have Imam Abu Abdul Hamid and Rashid both listening right now. Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Assalamu alaikum.
Go ahead, Imam.
Allah is rico. That is very important. Allah is rico. Allah is rich. He's al-ghani.
MashaAllah.
And وَنَحْنُ الْفُقَرَاء, and we are poor. Yani pobre. We are all poor. Allah is the rich. He is al-ghani. What does this mean? What does it mean that Allah is rich and we are poor? Meaning that we need Him constantly. We're in constant need of Him. We cannot help our own selves. The air that we breathe, we cannot do it except by Allah's help. Okay, the food that we eat and digest, we cannot do it without Allah's help. So He is rich. We need Him for everything. When we get sick, He is the one that cures us. Okay, when we have a problem, He should be the first one we should run to. And He is the one that is going to solve it. He's in charge of everything. When we need Him, when our children, they face difficulties in life, we turn to Him and we ask Him to make it easy for them and for ourselves. So Allah is definitely al-ghani. He is rich. And this is the main reason why Allah has sent prophets to share some of His wealth with us. And the wealth that He's sharing with us is not only, food and drink and money and material things, but it's also spiritual upliftment. It is guidance that will take us to the hereafter. Guidance that will take us to Jannah, to paradise. And we know that this is the ultimate gift that anyone can receive. No one can purchase paradise, no matter how much they make, how much they earn, how many treasures they own. It is Allah and only Allah that can take us into paradise. We ask Allah to grant us Jannah. Ameen.
Ameen.
Amén. Nos dice Imam también de igual modo que Allah es rico, Dios Padre Todopoderoso es rico y somos nosotros los que somos pobrecitos. Nosotros somos los que tenemos que buscar de Él, vemos como Dios siendo el sustentador nos provee todo lo que necesitamos en nuestro diario vivir, pero lo que necesitamos no solo es a diario, sino a cada momento, y no es solo las cosas materiales, sino también que nos guíe por el camino espiritual, por el camino correcto. Por eso es que envía estos mensajeros con sus mensajes, que es para simple y sencillamente darnos la guía para que nosotros veamos cuál es el propósito, el verdadero propósito de nuestras vidas, y que asumamos esa responsabilidad y lo realicemos de una forma correcta, hermanos. Imam, Jazakallahu khairan.
So as we were mentioning, Allah is rich, He's al-ghani, and we are poor and we need Him. So among the things He sent down to us is revelation. And the revelation that He sent down to us, He sent it through prophets. So Allah doesn't reveal directly to general people, common folk, human beings. He chooses a few of these human beings and He reveals the revelation unto them. He chooses them. How does He choose them? Allah uses the word in the Quran, istafa. Istafa means to handpick. He handpicks the best out of the best. The best out of the best. The human beings that have the best qualities, the best characteristics, the best of mankind, He chooses them and He makes them prophets. However, the door of prophethood is closed. So the last prophet that was sent to mankind was 1400 years ago, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this door has been closed, and it is very important that we understand, if anyone today in our religion, if anyone decides to claim that he's a prophet or he seeks prophethood, it is not possible for him. It is not possible for any human being to be a prophet after the Prophet ﷺ, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was sent to mankind, as it is mentioned clearly in the Quran and in the many traditions of the Prophet ﷺ, that he is the last prophet sent to mankind and to jinn.
Okay, nos dice, entre otras cosas, que nos provee Allah. Él nos provee con revelación a través de sus profetas. Él hace lo que se conoce, el término es stafa, que es seleccionar lo mejor de lo mejor. Él los selecciona y los hace profetas. Pero acuérdense, hermanos, de que el último lo fue el profeta Mahoma, que la paz de Dios sea con él siempre. Y esa puerta de la línea profética está ya cerrada, ya desde su visita y desde su partida desde nuestro medio. Ya esto no ocurre más, hermanos. Imam, Yusakuwallahu khairan.
So I want everyone, all of our listeners, to think about what is being said. Think about it. And ponder these verses that we recited onto you. And ponder the statements that we're making also. If this revelation that was sent down by God to these prophets is so precious to us, the only way to get it, the only way to find out what this message was through the prophets. So we need to go to the prophets and find out what was revealed to them. What message did God send down to all of us for mankind to follow? And we should follow that message because it's for our benefit. Now, think about it. Are there things that we cannot know except through revelation? Are there things that we may misunderstand except if we have revelation declared up for us? And I think the answer would be yeah. So I want you to think about it. And also, what do you think about it, guys?
Definitely. Subhanallah. I mean, there's so many instances where this has come up. But for one instance, I mean, how would you know how to pray? How would you know who to worship? There are so many different distinct groups and ideas of how to worship and who to worship. So how would you know this otherwise?
And a very beautiful point, as Brother Yusuf just mentioned, is that how do we know how to worship and who to worship? Okay, many of us as human beings, we claim to worship God. We worship God, the one that creates us. If we even affirm that He is the creator, our perception of who God really is, it varies from person to person. Unless we turn to the revelation. Because I may think God is this way, someone else may think, no, God is this way. And we have different, we don't want to say images, but different ideas of Allah's qualities and His names.
Right, opinions, right?
Exactly.
Different opinions.
All different opinions. But how do we find out what is correct? No one has ever seen Allah. No one has ever seen anything like Allah, because there's nothing like Him. So we have no idea absolutely to define who Allah is. What is Allah like? What is He? We have no idea. The only way to comprehend this is through revelation, where Allah Himself defines Himself to us and He explains to us His names and His attributes. This is the only way. It can only be done through revelation. You cannot be a philosopher and just sit and decide, okay, I think God should be this way and God should be that way. No.
That's been done, though. There's so many people who have done this, right?
Yep.
We have got, if you look at the Greeks and the Romans and all of that, so many people have taken a stab at who God is and what to worship and how. Did they get the revelation from God, or did they just one day wake up and say, "This is what I think"?
They got so confused that they had to have too many gods, because they thought that they had to be all over the place, and it's only one and only God. Okay, want me to translate?
Inshallah.
Nos dice Imam también, y el hermano Yusuf, de que tenemos que pensar sobre lo que estamos hablando en términos de la revelación, y que la revelación es algo muy precioso, hermanos, muy importante. Hay cosas que no sabemos o que no entendemos. ¿Cómo sabríamos de qué modo rezar y a quién adorar? Muchas veces reclamamos o creemos que adoramos a Dios y lo hacemos en modos diferentes y tan variados como las opiniones. Nadie lo ha visto a Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ese Dios Padre amado, ese Dios todopoderoso, ni ha hablado, estamos hablando de nuestros tiempos, y solo lo podemos conocer a través de su revelación, a través de su palabra, de su propia comunicación con nosotros, para guiarnos y prácticamente pues llevarnos de la mano, cosa que inclusive en muchas ocasiones nosotros nos negamos, hermanos. Imam,
An example of this is the Quranic verse that was mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where He says, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. In this verse, Allah is given a basic principle for us to understand the rest of verses that will be revealed. He said, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, meaning there's nothing similar to Him. Nothing can compare, even come close to compare to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His being and in His attributes, and is what we call the dhat and the sifat, in His being and His attributes. Nothing can come even close to Him. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Yet Allah affirms in this verse that He is as-Sami', the ever all hearing, meaning He hears everything that happens. He hears everything. Al-Basir, He is the one that sees everything. So He's affirming in this verse that Allah hears and He sees. Now, someone may say, well, if Allah hears and sees, does that mean human beings hear and see? Is Allah similar to a human being? This is where we draw the line. We say, no. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. He's not like a human. He's not like a human being. Allah is totally different. But at the same time, He hears everything. He sees everything. He knows everything. Okay? Nothing happens except by His knowledge. And these qualities are very, very important. Imagine if you were to grow up your children, regardless of what religion you had, but if you were to grow up your children in a manner, or that these children think that whatever they do, God sees them, Allah sees them, how will this impact their behavior? Whatever they do, wherever they are, God sees them and He knows what they're doing. I mean, look at what we've done. We've turned a lot of society. We've made a myth and basically a fabrication, and portrayed one of the qualities of God to someone that is fictitious. What happens at Christmas time? He knows what you're doing. He knows when you're sleeping. Who is this referring to?
Yeah,
fictitious person, Santa Claus. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I grew up in this society doing that. I mean, one of our things that we were told as children is to be careful, because Santa Claus, subhanAllah, Santa Claus is watching. He knows when you are sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows what you've been doing, so be good for goodness sake. This is the rhyme that children are taught. So, and even though Christians, they don't believe this, they don't believe that Santa Claus is real, they lie to their children until that time. And they basically lead their children into this lie up until a point. Hello, caller.
Assalamu alaikum. You mean to say that Santa is not real?
Oh man, you must be the one.
Sorry to bust your bubble.
Assalamu
alaikum. How are you, brother? Alhamdulillah.
How are you doing, Imam Saad? Jazakallah wala khairan, man. Good to hear from you. Assalamu alaikum.
MashaAllah.
El gusto y la distinción es nuestra y el honor es nuestro.
MashaAllah, it's good to hear your voice, brother.
Sheikh Abdul Azeem, how are you? Abdul Azeem, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you doing, brother?
How's everything?
Good, alhamdulillah. We ask Allah to...
May Allah reward you.
All of us. Ameen.
This subject of the prophets and messengers is of crucial importance, subhanAllah, because nowadays there are people out there that badmouth the prophets and messengers, and they speak ill of them, and they don't understand that, subhanAllah, it is out of kindness and generosity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent these prophets and messengers our way to bring us out of the darkness of disbelief or believing in false deities into the light of believing in Him and worshiping Him alone without taking any partners with Him. And subhanAllah, they basically came to save our lives. They came to save us from the hellfire. That's their main duty. And in the process, they sacrificed everything in order to do that, subhanAllah, and then people turn around and they badmouth them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us so that we would worship Him. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I've created the jinn and mankind except for them to worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need any sustenance from us or any that we feed Him. He just wants us to worship Him. That's the main reason for our creation. And in order for us to know and understand the reason for our creation, he sent the prophets and messengers our way. But the second reason that a lot of people don't pay attention to, and is crucial, is the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want anyone to have any plea against him on the day of judgment. And Allah said in Surah An-Nisa, رُسُلًا مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ لِأَلَّا يَكُونَ لِلنَّاسِ حُجَّةٌ بَعْدَ الرُّسُلِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَزِيزًا حَكِيمًا. Messengers who gave glad tidings as well as warnings, so that mankind should have no plea against Allah after the coming of the messengers, for Allah is exalted in power and wise. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also fair and just. وَإِن مِّنْ أُمَّةٍ إِلَّا أَخَلَا فِيهَا نَذِيرٌ. There is no nation except that they had a messenger. So there's a possibility based on this ayah that even the Romans and the Greeks and the ones of the past, those philosophers that strayed so far from the right path, the path of Allah, that they had messengers sent to them. But of course they changed that message. And subhanAllah, one of the proofs that some of the scholars used, subhanAllah, is in Surah Yusuf, the chapter that talks about Joseph alayhi salam, when the Imra'atul Aziz, the wife of the king, when she asked him to come out, well, she had that setting for the women, and she gave each one of them a fruit and a knife, and she asked him to come out. Right when they started cutting their fruit, and they all cut their fingers, what did they say? Subhanallah. What did they say, Sheikh Abdul Azeem?
ما هذا بشر.
ما هذا بشر إن هذا
ملك.
ملك كريم. So what did they get this information about the Malaika? If they were people that always had al-Wataniyya, always were people that worshipped, that had paganism, it's because somewhere, somehow, they had some information about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the existence of his revelation, and knowing about angels and knowing about jinn and things like that, subhanAllah. And many proofs out there of this. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this message to everyone. It's just a matter of people opening their hearts and believing in this message and following their messengers, the best of all mankind, the best that men that ever walked the earth. All we have to do is, subhanAllah, follow them with our eyes closed. They will lead us to Al-Jannah.
Definitely.
We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us, all of us, from the dwellers of Al-Jannah.
Ameen.
Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward everyone for the effort of da'wah.
Ameen.
Jazakallah khairan.
Pardon my interruption. I just wanted to...
No, we welcome it.
It was an honor.
Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Ok, nos dice los Imam, primero el ejemplo es el mismo que aparece anteriormente en el sura citado, en el 64.6. Y tenemos el... okay, we have Brother Rashid. Assalamu alaikum.
Brother Rashid.
Assalamu alaikum.
Brother Rashid, are you there?
Nope.
No, it looks like we lost him.
Please call us back, Brother Rashid. Allah nos dice que si no hay nada como Él para compararle ni en sus atributos, hermanos. Él nos da una descripción breve. Dios es el omnipotente, el omnisapiente, que todo lo escucha y todo lo ve. Y creemos que Él escucha y ve todo, pues es similar en el caso del hombre, en nuestra mente y en nuestro conocimiento limitado nos hace asociarle con nuestra realidad, que es una realidad finita y es una realidad muy limitada. Como nosotros pensamos que Él nos manifiesta, que Él escucha todo y Él ve todo, nosotros pensamos que Él tiene características similares a las nuestras y Él simplemente nos ha dado bendiciones a nosotros. Brother Rashid, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, can you hear me?
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Loud and clear.
I'm not going to take much of your time because the show is almost coming to close. I would like just to mention Surah An-Nur, which is chapter 24, verse 35. Surah An-Nur 24, verse 35, where it says, Allahu nuru as-samawati wal-ard, مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم. For those who ask about the nature of God, there is many verses that talk about explicitly, and this one is a beautiful. They say Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The example of His light is like a niche within which is a lamp. The lamp is His light, whom He was, and Allah presents example for the people. Allah is knowing of all, is the knower. So this is just an example that nothing can be compared to God, and Allah gave us examples so we can learn from it. May Allah bless you all.
Ameen.
Likewise.
Inshallah. So I'm out of time, inshallah.
Okay, brother.
Jazakallah khairan.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Thank you so much, brother.
Walaikum salam.
Precioso un verso que nos acaba de citar el Imam Rashid. Déjenme terminar de traducir la parte anterior. Cosas que decimos a veces a los niños, decimos que por ejemplo, sobre tienen que comportarse porque si no San Nicolás o Santa Claus no va a venir. Esas son cosas, o sea, también pues se le dice de que tenemos que portarnos bien porque si no Dios no nos va a colmar con esas bendiciones que Él siempre tiene para con nosotros. Siguiendo la línea profética, cuando hablamos de los profetas y mensajeros, en el pasado y aún todavía ocurre que se habla y se blasfema contra ellos y los desacreditan cuando Dios los trajo a ellos como una luz y orientación y guía y conocimiento para nosotros, para toda la humanidad. Allah dijo: he creado al hombre y al genio para que me adoren. Allah no quiere que tengamos alegación contra Él, eso es en el término de que Él nos da el gran mensaje, que es que no quiere ningún tipo de excusas, ya que hemos tenido la revelación y hemos tenido los mensajeros para el día del juicio final. No podemos decir, no quise prestarle atención, eso era cierto, lo que me estaban diciendo era cierto, era verdaderamente revelación de ti. Ese no es el momento, hermano, el momento es ahora. Incluso los romanos tuvieron mensajeros y cambiaron su mensaje. En el Sura Yusuf, la esposa del rey trajo a las mujeres y les dio cuchillos, y al llamar al profeta Yusuf, el profeta José, todas se cortaron los dedos, y esta lo había hecho a propósito. Y teniendo a ese profeta cerca de ella, no siguió su camino. Es solo abrir nuestras mentes, hermano, y nuestros corazones y seguir a los mensajeros hasta el paraíso. El hermano Rashid nos trae una cita que es de el Sura 24, el Sura de la Luz, a la aleya número 35, un Sura precioso, una aleya preciosa, y dice, y citamos de Sagrado Libro del Corán: Allah es la luz de los cielos y de la tierra. Su luz es como una hornilla en la que hay una lámpara. La lámpara está dentro de un vidrio y ese vidrio es como un astro radiante. Se enciende gracias a un árbol bendito, un olivo que no es ni oriental ni occidental, cuyo aceite casi alumbra sin que lo toque el fuego. Luz sobre luz, Alá guía hacia su luz a quien quiere. Alá llama la atención de los hombres con ejemplos y Alá conoce todas las cosas, hermanos. El que tenga conocimiento y sabiduría, que haga uso de esas palabras. Imam, Jazakallahu khairan.
Jazakallah for the callers, sharing that information was very useful, and it's good to remind one another. The topic was very important. We definitely believe that messengers were sent to every single nation. It's just a matter of, do we know them? It might have been a long time ago, so we may not come to know them, and because of their teachings might have been lost as time went by, and maybe the ancestors, they did not convey the message, the revelation, and so it was lost. Or maybe they turned away, like mentioned in the Quran, as many did. But Allah mentions, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. As Allah mentions, and we have sent to every nation a prophet. To every nation, meaning every group of people that's out there, a prophet was sent to them with one message, one common message: أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ, so that they should worship Allah alone, single Him out, be monotheistic. وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ, and they should avoid any false deities. And this basically sums up the issue of prophets being sent to every nation. However, the last thing to remind everyone and remind our listeners, that the last prophet that was sent to mankind, he has come 1400 years ago. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and all the other prophets. And he was sent to all of mankind. He was not just sent to people that live in the east, or people in the west, or Africans or whites or Spanish or Arabs. He was sent to all of mankind. Rahmatan lil alameen, as Allah describes him. He was sent as a mercy to mankind.
Dice Imam también después del Sura de la Luz, que tan bonito que acabamos de discutir, habla de que este es un mensaje para todas las naciones y para toda la humanidad. Y nosotros todavía seguimos con la renuencia, ¿no? Acabamos de aceptar esa revelación tan bonita que Dios, que Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala nos ha dado. Y Allah dice, y he enviado a los profetas y mensajeros a todas las naciones para que me adoren y sepan que solo existe un solo Dios, hermanos. El último mensajero lo fue el profeta Mahoma, y él fue enviado como una misericordia para toda la humanidad. Y tenemos que, hermanos, analizar, o sea, nosotros somos los que seleccionamos a los profetas, o es Allah, ese Dios, ese Padre Todopoderoso, el que los selecciona y nos los envía, y nosotros debemos escuchar y seguir ese sagrado mensaje. Imam, Yusakullahu khairan.
Shukran.
Well, since this really connects with me, the one thing that I would like to say to the listeners who don't know about Islam, whenever I was first talked to about Islam, they basically made this analogy about picking your own wife. So let's say your parents came to you and said, this is your wife, 100%, you're going to take it. Most people would completely reject this. They would say, you know what, it's my decision. I will choose who my wife is. And the same goes whenever you're picking out your religion. You need to know what is true and what is factual. Take the time and take the effort to look and see what is true and look for the facts. Don't just take it blindly because mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or whoever you're with teaches you that. Make sure it's true. Make sure you understand clearly, because when it comes the day of judgment and you are asked, was the message given to you, and you're listening right now, make sure you know for sure that you had made this decision and that you will stand up and you will stand for that.
I think those were some very sincere words, and I wish we can all follow it. That basically he was saying that we should think about our decisions, because our religion is very important. It's more important than what you decide to study or what job you have. It's more important than what you're gonna have for lunch. It's one of the most important decisions you'll make, because it affects you hereafter. Hereafter is forever, and you have two choices: either you're gonna go to paradise, or you're gonna go to the opposite of paradise, which is hell. And we ask Allah to protect us, but in order for us to seek His protection, we must think, use our minds that Allah has given us, and be very rational when it comes to making decisions about which religion. There are many religions, but if you search with a sincere heart, the truth will manifest itself to you.
Un corazón sincero. Nos dice que quienes no sepan del Islam, es también perdón un momentito, con corazón sincero, nos está hablando también de que quienes no sepan del Islam es como cuando seleccionas tú a tu esposa. Igualmente ocurre como cuando seleccionamos a nuestra religión. Es tuya, la llevas en tu corazón y escuchas ahora, y asegúrate que tú te pones de pie, te colocas de pie y la defiendes y haces lo que Dios desea, y coges el camino correcto, que es lo que Dios aspira que todos nosotros sigamos. Todo afecta a nuestra vida venidera. Tienes que buscar en tu corazón y buscar en tu alma, hermano, para estar profesando y practicando tu religión con devoción y siguiendo ese mensaje profético que siempre nos ha enviado. Jazakallahu khairan.
Shukran, jazakallah.
Jazakallah khairan for all of our listeners and for all of those who participated in today's discussion. Please check us out on Islam for Mankind, our website, or you can always just listen in next time. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum. Muchas bendiciones para todos, hermanos. Los vemos en la próxima semana en su programa semanal Islam para la Humanidad y toda la creación de Allah. Gracias a Imam, gracias a Brother Yusuf, gracias a Imam Saad Slawi, que nos llamó también, y gracias al hermano Rashid, que también estuvo por la vía telefónica con nosotros. Muchas bendiciones. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
refresca tus oídos con una sola frecuencia.
Mágica 1220.